Hey, I'm Libby Dankman. I'm a journalist, a Pacific Northwesterner, and starting next week, the host of Soundside, a new show about life in the Puget Sound region airing Monday through Thursday at noon. We want Soundside to be a place to meet your neighbors, like a great block party where everyone is invited, or gathering around a campfire to hang on every word of an unpredictable story and then sharing your own. Join the conversation next week at noon right here on KUOW or by searching for Soundside wherever you get your podcasts. Talk soon.
Hey, good morning. It's Patricia Murphy. It's Wednesday. This is Seattle Now. We are well into ski and snowboarding season, but some of Washington's slopes are sitting empty, despite plenty of people who want to hit the powder.
It was kind of ghostly in the parts of the mountain that were closed, with 3 feet of snow sitting on the chairlifts. It felt like an abandoned ski resort in corners.
Seattle Times reporter Gregory Scruggs will explain what's going on at Stevens Pass in a minute. But first, let's get you caught up. Add Bruce Harrell's inauguration party to the list of events Omicron canceled this week. The new mayor opted for a small private celebration at City Hall Tuesday because of rising case numbers. Harrell says his administration will lead Seattle out of uncertain times to renewed optimism by working together to create what he calls One Seattle, where people feel safe and supported. In other news, Deborah Juarez was elected council president, the first Indigenous person to hold the post. Seattle University is keeping classes virtual until the end of the month, citing the rapid rise in Omicron cases. The decision comes a day after the University of Washington doubled down on resuming in-person classes next week. Seattle U will also require students on campus during winter quarter to show a negative COVID test, even if they're vaccinated. The school says students who don't comply by February 4th will be fined $250. And speaking of snow, Snoqualmie Pass has gotten more snow so far this winter than any time in the past 20 years. The new record, 236 inches. That's just under 20 feet. Blowing snow and avalanche dangers shut down I-90 through the pass all day Monday, and they're getting ready for another dumping of snow tonight and tomorrow. The mountains have plenty of snow this year, which is great news for skiers and snowboarders around here. But some resorts are having a bumpy start to the season, especially at Stevens Pass. Visitors say lines are out of control. Half the runs on the mountain are closed. Parking is a nightmare. And in some cases, people never even got onto the mountain. The Everett Herald recently reported that Stevens is so understaffed, they're pulling employees off safety patrol to do things like run the chairlifts. Gregory Scruggs is here to give us a window into what's going on at Stevens and at other ski resorts off to a bumpy start this season. He's the outdoors reporter at the Seattle Times. Hey, Greg, thanks a lot for taking the time.
Hi, Trish. My pleasure to be here when I'm not on the slopes.
Yeah, so I'm a little excited to talk to you about this because I haven't been skiing in so long. You were up at Stevens skiing Monday. Tell me what the snow was like.
The snow was all time. We had a lot of it, made for some challenging road conditions, but for the brave souls with the winter driving knack to get up there, I had some very, very deep powder skiing runs yesterday.
That sounds amazing. Sounds like you had a pretty great day, Greg, but some folks have had terrible days at Stevens recently, and you've reported on it. Tell us what's going wrong there.
They don't have enough people to operate the mountain fully. When I was there on Monday, as has been the case since the season began, upwards of 60% of the terrain remains closed. Half of the chairlifts are not operating, and it's not because they don't have enough snow. It's because they don't have enough people to run the operations. And for folks who bought a season's pass, which they would have locked in before the season began, they are very upset that they are not getting the full product that they paid for.
Yeah. Understandable. Very expensive sport to buy a season pass for. Why is staffing such a big issue this year?
Stevens Pass is owned by Vail Resorts, which is a publicly traded company based in Broomfield, Colorado. They purchased Stevens Pass in 2018, and Vail Resorts playbook when they purchase a resort has rubbed a lot of longtime employees at Stevens Pass the wrong way. And from our reporting at the Seattle Times last season, the winter of 2020 to 2021, we spoke to a lot of current and former employees who left over what they felt like was an outside corporation who has sucked away the life or destroyed the soul of a beloved local ski area. So some of the practices that Vail Resorts embarks upon, which I have to commend Rachel Riley at the Everett Herald for her excellent reporting on this, the middle management positions at ski areas evaporate. So there's no longer an on-site marketing director, an on-site human resources person. All of that happens at a corporate headquarters somewhere. And for the employees doing these, very difficult jobs, working minimum wage, shoveling snow, operating lifts in sometimes very brutal winter weather, they do it not for the money. They do it for the love of being able to go skiing and snowboarding and the unique experience of working at a ski area. But I think a lot of the joy and the reward that comes from working these tough jobs has evaporated under the Vail Resorts management. And Vail Resorts continues to post plenty of profit. So they're a publicly traded company. At the end of Vail's fiscal year, they ended at a profit of nearly $128 million on $1.91 billion in revenue. So I think what's particularly galling for the 20,000 plus people who signed a change.org petition calling to hold Vail Resorts accountable for mismanaging Stevens Pass is that this publicly traded company with a international portfolio and lots of money on hand, for some reason, can't seem to figure out how to get this tiny ski area in Washington up and running fully.
It sounds a little bit, Greg, like what we're dealing with here is a ski mountain that used to feel a little more personal to people, and it's just not that way anymore. And I wonder if there is a way to solve this problem and whether or not other ski mountains in Washington are doing it better.
My impression is that more employee housing is needed as close as possible to Stevens Pass. They, to my knowledge, do not get compensated for commute time. And that's a pretty grueling commute to make from the various communities along the Highway 2 corridor, both east and west of Stevens Pass. Crystal Mountain has been 100% open since before Christmas, so there's some kind of secret sauce at Crystal. And it should be noted, Crystal is owned by Alterra Mountain Company, which is the main rival to Vail Resorts. It's also an out-of-state company based in Colorado. And our reporting last spring at the end of the 2020-2021 season showed that there is more employee housing available on site at Crystal Mountain, which I think helps a lot, as well as what seemed to be a culture that was more employee friendly. And, I spoke to a lot of folks. I mean, people who work at ski areas are not authorized to speak to journalists on the record, or they're probably going to lose their job. But I spoke to a lot of people anonymously, and I got the general impression last season that folks enjoyed working at Crystal, and they did not particularly enjoy working at Stevens.
Interesting. Crystal Mountain also went back to requiring people to make reservations recently, which is irritating to some people. I wonder what they're hoping to achieve there.
There's even an update since that news came on Saturday. Crystal Mountain announced the return of reservations required to ride chairlifts and ski on the mountain, effectively reducing weekends, in particular, weekends and holidays, to season pass holders. On Monday, following 48 hours of backlash on social media, Crystal revised that policy and said reservations are no longer required to ride a chairlift and ski on the mountain, but reservations are required on weekends and holidays for parking. Crystal's choke point is that they have not enough. If everybody drives alone, there is not enough parking for the amount of skiable terrain. They think they can fit about 6,000 skiers on the mountain, but they cannot fit 6,000 cars in their parking lots. So if you carpool, 4 people skiing will only need 1 reservation for their vehicle. if you ride the free bus service from Enumclaw with a park and ride that has something like unlimited capacity, you don't need a reservation at all. And Crystal is charging for parking, by the way, on weekends if you are not a season pass holder, and they're funneling that money into this revamped and expanded bus service from Enumclaw. So Crystal is doubling down on carpooling and transit as a way to manage their parking situation, which this season has already led to 3 so-called parkouts. That's when the parking lot is full and people who are on Highway 410 heading up to Crystal get turned around. They just physically can't get there in the first place.
You know, let's be honest, though, skiing isn't always accessible for everyone. It costs money, and you have to have a way to get there. Here's some context on how much more expensive it's gotten recently. In 2005, which was about the last time I skied, it was $46 for a lift pass on a Saturday. Today, a one-day pass at Stevens is $130. Crystal Mountain, you're looking at almost $200. For people who haven't been skiing for a while, like myself, what's going on here in terms of how expensive it is and the pricing?
The business model of skiing has changed dramatically in the last few years since Vail Resorts and Alterra Mountain Company began dividing up the map of North American ski country like the game of Risk. And they have heavily incentivized the purchase of season passes before the season begins, and subsequently heavily penalized those who purchased lift tickets a couple days before or the day of going skiing. It has never been cheaper to have a season's pass that not only is good at your local ski area like Stevens or Crystal, but also at dozens of destinations around the country. This kind of multi-resort season pass didn't really even exist 5+ years ago, certainly not in 2005. When you last went skiing, you bought a season pass to your local area, ski area, and that was it. And so you didn't if you traveled somewhere, you were shelling out more. Now, people that live even far from ski areas own season passes because they can travel to all these different destinations. Subsequently, the day ticket prices have gone way up. And in fact, if they're even sold at all, if you haven't committed before the season began to a season pass, you are coming out behind financially. If you do commit ahead of time and you plan your winter well and go a lot and to several different places, you could have the season of your lifetime at a fraction of the cost of what it would have taken to ski that same number of days in a variety of destinations back in 2005.
Gregory Scruggs, Seattle Times reporter, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it.
My pleasure, Trish, and I hope to see you on the slopes.
Appreciate you listening. Clare McGrane produced today's show, which is also made by Caroline Chamberlain Gomez, Jenny Cecil Moore, Diana Opong, and Jason Pagano. Matt Jorgensen does our theme music. I'm Patricia Murphy.